This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by the Intake Academy. Do you know how to cement relationships with more of your ideal clients, get them to commit to you, and send you more referrals than you ever thought possible? Visit www.intakeacademy.com, where you will get the strategies you need to make the most of your marketing and advertising dollars. Plus, develop a team of intake specialists and attorneys who convert more qualified case opportunities and build meaningful relationships with prospective clients. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Lawyers Tell All, and today I'm going to be interviewing Victoria Collier. Did I do it okay?
You did. It's perfect.
Okay, super. And I'm going to let Victoria tell you about herself. Go ahead, Victoria.
Great. Well, thanks, Chris. First of all, the first thing you need to know is Chris is my very, very favorite name. It was my mother's name, and it is also my son's name. So I own a business called Quid and what we do is we help lawyers value their businesses and position to sell them someday so they can have a life after law. But before I did that, there's a whole story of how I owned my own law firm for 18 years before I sold it. I was in the military before that for 6 years, active duty Air Force. And before that, I moved out when I was 17, still in high school and trying to figure it all out. And so any part of that and all parts of that have everything to do with where we are today. And after I sold my law firm, I bought a farm and I grew hemp for 2 years.
Oh, nice.
And created CBD products, right? Then I sold the big farm and now I have a little farm. And so I have horses, goats, chickens, you name it.
Is that where you are right now while I'm talking to you?
I'm not at the farm right now.
I want you to go walk around. I want to see what's going on.
I would have loved that. Usually I am at the farm, but today I'm at the city house. So
okay. We'll have to do it again sometime so you can show me the horses and everything. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Okay, well, so tell me about why you became a lawyer.
So when I was in high school, I thought I was going to become a doctor. And I was taking all of the advanced sciences and health classes to include going and watching surgeries. I'm from Texas, Houston, and so they had some great hospitals there that our schools can go watch. But as I said a second ago, I moved out when I was 17. I was a big athlete. I ran and played basketball. But all that stopped when I moved out. I had to get out of my honors classes. I had to get out of athletics. And I took what I thought, what we used to call PUD classes. I took psychology and positive mental attitude. We had those classes at the time. Which is interesting because ultimately I thought then when I started, so I floundered I got my degree on time, but then I worked for about a year and a half. And, I was really good at math. And so when I went in the Air Force, which is so I could go to college for the most part, happened to be during Desert Storm when that all started. But I was really good at math. And so I thought, well, maybe I could be a CPA because I love math. And so I've always loved every job I've ever had, though. So my very first job was Burger King, and I could challenge myself and how fast can I make the burger and it not get all messy,
Yeah, right.
And then I worked at a nursing home and did hands-on care. But when I was in the military and I thought I was going to get a degree in accounting, I started dating someone and I wasn't paying attention to the math. And, you get behind on that and you can't catch
Yeah,
up.
yeah, you can't
Uh,
focus. No focus.
there's no focus. And when I went in the military, this is a long way to answer your question, but when I went in the military, I chose a job that would upset my parents and also give me some practical skills. So I became a carpenter and a mason. And so
Oh,
I
I
was
love
building
it.
things and it was
Really?
outrageously fun. But I'm 5'3". I weigh 105 pounds, and 21 years old. I was like, you know what? When I'm 40, that's not going to be very attractive to very many people,
Yeah.
and it was very important to me to be attractive. So, the person who diverted me away from accounting was a paralegal, and I was encouraged to just cross train instead of getting out of the military to cross train and become a paralegal in the military. So I did. And I was really good at it and I loved it.
Why
Okay.
did the person, that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. Why did the person, why did the paralegal, why did that person, who was it that told you to go into paralegal or to try that? How did that happen?
So that was the person that I was seeing
Oh, okay.
that diverted me from doing well in accounting. And so I had decided to get out of the military because I signed up for 4 years, and so
Yeah.
you can get out. And so I was just going to get out. And she was like, no, why don't you just cross train because you're really good at the military stuff, and cross train and become a paralegal. And so you have to sign up for 3 more years when you cross train into another job.
Oh, okay.
um,
Oh,
and
oh,
so, but I did, I thought, I mean, sure. So I cross-trained, got all the schooling for it and did really well as a paralegal and in the
hmm.
military. But then, you have relations in the military that don't always travel with you, especially
Yeah.
back then. So my partner was a female and that wasn't okay back then. Are you
Yeah.
sure I need to deal with her?
No, we're okay. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we're
With
good.
my dog. Okay.
Okay.
So she was a lifetime career military and I
Okay.
was just beginning. And so after 6 years, I got out of the military. And then I started working in the private sector as a paralegal.
Okay.
And so you said, why did I go, that's how I got into law. How did I
Okay.
become a lawyer
Yeah.
is that I have just always been the personality that if there's another step, another rung above the one I'm at, that I need to achieve that. And so
Right. Yeah.
paralegal, I mean, I was doing everything except walking into court and getting paid like a lawyer.
Yeah,
And
right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, which, they say you can't do anything with that without getting an advanced degree.
Yeah.
And so by this point, I wasn't dating that person anymore, and I was actually dating a lawyer. And that was the first time that I'd ever been really
Oh,
encouraged that I could do something greater
okay.
in my life. And so she helped me fill out all the applications and to law schools,
Oh,
which is
wow.
onerous. Um,
Yeah.
and so I got in, and I went. So.
So that's awesome.
So I kind of got there through, dating people
Yeah,
and
but
wanting more out of my life.
another wrong, another wrong, another.
That's right. That's right.
But the other thing too is I suppose that having a farm, you're still doing the carpentry work and the mason work, all that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just last September, one of my best friends that I met in the Army Reserves, because I went into the Army Reserves, and she and I got together in September and built a 4-stall horse stalls. And then my friend passed away in December. So it was the last big thing that she did and that we did together. And so we were able to use those skills and enjoy each
Yeah.
other's company. Yeah.
Wow. Sorry to hear that. And that's so you have those stalls.
We do. And she was a paralegal. That's how we met, was in the Army Reserves. We were both paralegals at the time.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so what kind of attorney did you become?
So I became an elder law / estate planning attorney. And when I went to law school, I always wanted to be like this big corporate lawyer,
Yeah.
wearing the suits, walking downtown, making the big bucks. But when I took corporate law, the only thing that really excited me was insider trading. And I thought, oh my gosh, if that's what excites me, I need to stay away from that. uh,
Right. Right.
and I slept
Oh
through the rest of the class.
my God.
So that's not good for me. Um,
Mm,
so as a paralegal, I had been a workers' compensation paralegal, and I loved it because it had to do with numbers. It had to do with helping people that were disabled. And I had, as I said, worked in a nursing home. When
yeah.
I was in law school, I also worked for uh, employment law, where we were helping people who had disabilities that were discriminated against. So
Mm,
I've always been drawn to those people who can't advocate for themselves,
right.
but specifically senior citizens. It's my love and my passion.
Mm,
And so when I tried to get workers' comp jobs, I just wasn't being successful at it. And so I sat down on the floor in my apartment, and my partner at the time, she was an assistant district attorney. And so she was devoted to a life of not ever making much money, given that it was a government job. So I sat down and I cried and I said, well, let's pretend money doesn't mean anything. and she's like, well, who do you want to work with? And I said, just old people. I want to work with old people.
yeah. Yeah.
So she did the research, and I went to the law school in Nebraska, but we wanted to live in Atlanta, which is, Georgia is where we met. And so she did the research, and there was like 5 elder law attorneys at the time. And
Okay.
that's it in the whole state of Georgia. So I flooded the market, all 5 of them, with my resume, and I got a summer internship with one of them. Then I was fortunate enough to do my 3rd year of law school as a visiting student in Georgia. So I could work with him the whole year. And so then at the end of graduation, the question was, do I work for someone else or do I work for myself? Well,
Right. Yeah.
I had put together a business plan for him, to where I could show that I could bring in 3 times the salary I was asking. And so this was 2002. I was asking for $60,000, and I showed how I could bring in, 3 times that. He just laughed at me. And so I started my own firm, and it was just the best thing I could have ever done.
Wow. Okay. So, elder law is what you did?
Elder law. Mhm.
Okay. That was your own firm. And, how many, team members did you have?
So in the beginning, knowing that I was going to open my own firm right out of law school, there's like 6 months from when you graduate and when you get your bar results.
Yeah.
So I knew this lawyer who was doing family law, and he just hated it. And he was much older than me. And so I said, join with me. I need your bar license, and I'll teach you how to do the elder law side. And
Mhm.
so I started off with a partner, and that lasted a year. And then we both decided he should retire after that. So
Okay.
he did. And our first hire was a receptionist, and then a paralegal. And so my first year after having a partner, I had a receptionist and a paralegal. Tried to hire an associate, and I wasn't great at hiring associates.
Mhm.
And so I really, over the years, so I had my firm for 18 years. I built my firm with paralegals and legal assistants for the most part. And I had attorneys coming and going, but only
Yeah.
once. I did have an associate that I promoted to partner for like 2 years, and that
Mhm.
wasn't great either. So when I sold my firm in 2020, I had one attorney who was my office manager as well, and then I had a marketing person, 4 paralegals,
Mhm.
2 intake people, and a social worker. So, about 10, anywhere between 8 to 12 people at
Wow.
any time.
So that's pretty successful. So, did you build it to sell it? when you when
No,
you were building it? Is that like that wasn't in
no,
your head then? Mhm.
no. And I'm a horrible systems and processes person. I understand and totally grasp the value of processes and systems, and I teach processes and systems as far as the need for them. But I'm a visionary and I just rather slit my wrists than have to sit down and create a process, you know? Um, and so I was well into my practice when I actually became co-owner of another company that we coached and taught other estate planning lawyers. And my aspect of it, my niche within my niche was veterans benefits. And so I had to help systematize the VA world for other lawyers. And so that's really, I was probably 12 years into my practice at that point, really where I started getting the business mindset.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had been just focusing on marketing. Like I was a marketing business that sold legal services. So marketing, staffing, production, but not really any thoughts about selling or how to even create a real business until I started coaching other lawyers on that,
Okay.
on like how to have a better business.
Okay. So so fast forward to your current business.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about how long has that been alive,
Yes. So I sold my practice in February 2020.
right?
And it was February of 2021. A colleague of mine called me and said, I'm selling my practice. Would you like to buy it? And I said, I appreciate the compliment and the trust, but I'm under a non-compete, so no, I can't.
Right,
I
yeah.
said, um, I said, but I do, so she said, oh, you sold yours, and so she asked me all kinds of things. I asked her all kinds of things. And she said, can you help me sell mine? I have a broker, but I want you've asked me more questions in 15 minutes than he has in a year. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, I can. And so I took a flat fee, not knowing what I was doing. I took a flat fee and I found a buyer within 2 months and we were closed within, I think, seven after due diligence and
Right.
getting the SBA loan. And she got 100% of her money up front with a short transition period. And I thought, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so
Awesome. That's exciting, actually.
yeah,
That excites me. I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun.
yeah. So it was fun, and it gave me the confidence to continue to you know, be a broker. But also, I was coaching other lawyers, and so essentially, what happened was other lawyers who I had been coaching since 2008 in a different way. They
Mhm.
knew that I had sold my practice, and they're like, "Look, I'm your age or older." And I want to start positioning to sell in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Can you help me do that? And so I
Right.
did. And that's kind of where I came up
Yeah, that's
with
great.
my podcast name, Smart Lawyers Position to Transition, because no one should just leave.
Yeah. Um, I remember maybe 2 years ago, a conference that I was at with personal injury attorneys, not just personal injury attorneys, but a lot of them. And there was a lot of talk about selling your law firm, but there wasn't really anybody that could stand up and say that they were experienced at it and they could do it. I mean, there
Mhm.
wasn't really anybody that was doing it. And that was just a couple of years ago. So do you have a certain type law firm that you tend to focus on?
I would say that what has gravitated towards me has been estate planning / elder law firms because it was already my market. They already knew who I was. They already trusted me from the years when I was coaching estate planning lawyers in the veterans benefits world. So that was a natural draw to me without me
Yeah.
having to do any networking. What has also become a nice little niche is immigration law.
Okay.
And so that's the other kind. But I have assisted on both sides, buying and selling in employment law, family law,
Yeah.
estate planning is the biggest, trademark is another one. So I definitely have been in other areas as well.
Okay. Is there one area that excites you more than the other?
I would
Well,
say.
yeah, elder probably, but I mean,
Yeah, I was about to say, estate planning and elder law, because I speak it. I mean, it is, it runs through my blood.
yeah,
And so I understand it like no other type. And so it's much easier to buy one and sell one of that. Beyond that, I would say my second favorite probably is, your regular business law,
okay,
trademark,
okay,
because I think that they bring better multiples. So I want to
right,
sell what's sellable.
right, exactly. So, what's the most difficult type of law firm to prepare to sell?
Mhm. The solo practitioner,
Yeah,
period.
yeah,
Because, it's hard to prove value and what the assets are when that person isn't there anymore, right? So you're just buying a book of business, which is very traditional, very historic, and very not monetarily valuable.
yeah. So, how do you position a law firm to be valuable
Mhm.
enough to sell?
Right. So if we have enough lead time, the biggest key factors are we focus on net profit, because everybody wants to know what's the net, what's going to be in my pocket after I,
Mhm.
make this investment. So, a lot of firms out there are running at 7 to 12% net profits, and that's just not going to be desirable to a buyer. So we have to
Mhm.
look at ways to make it different. And if not make it different, make it look different. So, for example, um, some lawyers pay themselves very high salaries, or they run everything through the business. That, from a tax perspective may be okay, but from a buyer's perspective, I can look at that, but it's still not going to look good, especially if I want to get a loan to buy it, right? Because they're looking at debt to income ratio.
Mhm.
So if we've got enough lead time, then we stop thinking that taxes are the most important thing, and we start thinking about what's the value I can get on a multiple of my EBITDA or my seller's discretionary earnings. So that's number one. Number two is no one wants to come in and buy a job. So who does the work,
Yeah.
right? And so, it's the first. So one of the things I say is, let's see how we can replace your roles
Mhm.
before we replace you in the business.
Yeah.
And so we start thinking about the most critical roles that would be most beneficial to you as a person as you have this firm, but also to a buyer, right? So what is the buyer not going to want to come in and do? The buyer's going to be okay coming in and being the lawyer, right?
Yeah.
The buyer's going to come in sometimes and be okay doing the sales, because that's what most lawyers know to do. But they're not going to want to answer the phone. They're not going to want to do the bookkeeping. They're not going to want to, go to the mail. Some of them don't want to go to court.
Yeah. A
So
lot of us
how
don't want to go to court.
exactly. So how can we replace those things first, right? Those people, those roles first. Um, then the third thing, Chris, is, how can we streamline and automate as much as possible so that the income stream is predictable? Because that's
Right.
what they're buying, is predictability. So I'd say
Mhm.
those are the top three.
So, marketing is a big deal.
Mhm.
Um, and how you nurture your past clients,
Oh, absolutely.
uh, referral streams,
Hmm.
and your how you bring in new business, your intake department.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
but the firms that I work with, um, mostly with intake, but also with clients, meaning like the law firm's clients, helping them retain their clients.
Right.
You know, that's the biggest issue is they don't have systems and processes, and they still don't look at intake as one of the most important departments in the firm to convert. And it's a mess.
For me, it's the most important part of the firm, because why spend all this money on this glamorous website and Google AdWords and all these things if your intake department's going to just tank the deal for you? That is the most important, in my opinion, part
Yeah.
of the law firm is intake, and you've got to have those systems and processes. Otherwise, it's just a free-for-all.
So let me ask you this. So I've been working with law firms for 30 years, and my company's Intake Academy. So we mostly focus on intake. At least we start there. Why is it that law firms still today, more than not, don't see intake as the most important department. They say it at a conference maybe or meetings, but they don't actually act it. Why is that?
Well, because they see it as an entry level position and they pay the lowest for it, and they're not valuing it because society, see, it's the old secretary, right?
Exactly.
It's the old secretary.
It's the gals in the back of the room.
Exactly, exactly. So until we can shift our minds into saying that these people are actually the most important, then and nothing else matters, because if you don't get the clients, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
But we've got to, Chris, I think the difference is, and I think we're starting to see some of the differences is through coaching like yours and other, people are just becoming more business minded. And I think we need to educate in every way we can that entry level, and it's not entry level, that first face of the firm is the most important. And I think that's how we need to position it, is something like that. It's the first face of the firm is the most important. And I think I grasped it because I was a paralegal. I understood that I could make or break any lawyer I ever worked for, right?
Yeah, right.
And they had, they respected that, and I respected it, and which is why I probably was so good at hiring paralegals, because I respected what their job was and their receptionist. And so I had a receptionist I was paying, I think, $35 an hour for, and I had a paralegal that I was paying at one point $28 for. And I don't pay by the title. I pay by the value of what you bring to me and my firm.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the shift is. And I think there just needs to be a lot more education.
Perfect. Okay, so just one more thing before we go. So with your program, are you working in all the different areas of the practice, or do you have other people that are helping you do that? Like, what does that look like?
Like in my own business?
Yeah, in your current business, like, how do you help the other law firms? Do you have a bunch of people that go in and help with different areas?
Yeah. So I do have a team, and we're always growing. So I have, first and foremost, I'll start off with my very first employee was my marketing person. So she creates all of our marketing materials for us, like this screen on the back of, what we're looking at here. She created all that. And she's full time. I have an operations person who builds out our policies and
procedures.
Good. I've got an executive assistant that helps me keep my inbox at zero and my appointments scheduled when they're supposed to, and that I show up where I'm supposed to, and coordinating events like this. And I actually have a separate events coordinator that lines up all my events for me. But as far as my actual clients, I have a full-time salesperson that when someone hires us to help them sell their law firm, I have two people that do prospecting to build our lists, and then we cold call. So I've got 3 staff members that just do nothing but work on behalf of our clients to help them find prospects to buy their law firms.
Okay, perfect. That's excellent. Well, we could probably have several more of these podcasts. What do you want to leave people with? What do you want them to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think that we today are not who we're going to be tomorrow. And we need to keep an open mind as to what that looks like. And how who we show up as has a ripple effect on everyone else around us. Okay. And so that's whether you're growing your firm, whether you're putting processes and systems in place, or you're positioning to transition out of either a role or your firm itself, is that we don't have to be stuck where we are. And that's emotionally, that's physically, and that's professionally, is that we're always evolving. And how can we evolve so that it's better for all the ripples that go out?
Perfect. So how can everyone get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to our website at www.quidproquolaw.com.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All. where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.